Hello guys, welcome back to What Is This Weapon? I'm Jonathan, and this is pretty unusual looking, I think. So this is, well, we are in slow time working through cataloguing the entire collection here. Everything at the Royal Armouries, we're all working as part of our jobs on cataloguing everything. So in theory, everything will have a reference photograph at least. It will have, in the case of firearms, its caliber, general vital statistics, weight, overall length, barrel length, all of that. So we work through to a sort of minimum acceptable standard, and if we know more, we obviously add that as well. So one of our main tasks, people often ask me what I do every day that isn't this, and that's one of them. And partly due to popular culture, one of the batches of things I decided to catalogue recently were the Ruger P series. Now, coincidentally, Forgotten Weapons did a video not so long ago, a few months now, around about the time I was doing this, on the P85 and a couple of other variants I think were mentioned at least, and a new channel called Hollywood Guns, which is excellent. Go over there and check that out. Every video is themed to a gun and the various movies, mainly movies, but also TV shows that it's been in. Really good stuff in there. And he also covered the Ruger, not this. This is the P94. You can see the marking there on the slide. P94DAOL. Now, Ruger designations get pretty confusing for a couple of reasons. One is the sort of menu of options where you build a different name, essentially, depending on what options the gun's being equipped with. That's kind of standard. And then there are some prefixes and suffixes that may or may not appear on the actual gun themselves. So try and clear up a little bit of that confusion. But this one is marked P94DAO. P94 is, so the first model is the P85, and then they follow from there. So this is obviously a bit later on. DAO stands for double action only. So we have cleared this, but again, and so there's no hammer spur on the back of this, which gives partly what gives it a weird silhouette. I'm hoping to catch out our friends on social media who will have probably guessed what this is by now, but whatever. They nearly always win. No hammer spur on the back. So when I pull through on the trigger, we get that double action trigger. So cocking the hammer and releasing it in one go. It's quite a good double action trigger. Maybe a little spongy, but not too bad for a double action only. So you never have that, you don't have the ability to pre-cock it for a more accurate shot. And there's not a decocker, which there is on some of the Rugers. And the hammer is not cocked when you chamber around. So the hammer, by default, drops down. So you always get that double action pull. Downside, you can't get a more accurate trigger pull. So I fired a shot, slide comes back. See, there's no reset there for a shorter trigger pull or a better trigger pull. You have to fully reset it out for that double action pull. So double action only, DAO, is what that means. So that's something you'll find on other pistols as well. Now that's not wedded to what's up here. But before we get into that, let me just revert to, as I say, the P85, the baseline model. Check out Ian's video for that. The iconic model for me, before we get any further and go back to this, is the P90. No, not that P90, not the one with the small, fast bullets that fires at a ridiculous rate and has a 50-round magazine. No, the Ruger P90. So this is one of the variants of that P85. It's the 45 ACP version, so you'll see sizable muzzle, bore size, caliber size. And if you were in any doubt, and you didn't know that the P90 by default is a 45 ACP pistol, you have 45 ACP marked on the barrel there. Why am I so excited about this? Well, those of you of a certain age will already know. Primarily the film Desperado with Antonio Banderas, sequel to El Mariachi, before the third one, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. And really, this is the firearms star of that movie. Used very prominently throughout, often two-handed, akimbo. There's lots of very silly gunplay goes on in that film. Now, I did attempt this with the guys at GameSpot some time ago now in their Loadout series, not with Rugers. I think it was a Glock and a Beretta at the same time, and unsurprisingly, extremely difficult and not really worth doing. Hopefully, we can throw up a bit of footage of that to remind you how poorly I did there. Interesting experience though, even more interesting with uncompensated 45 ACP pistols like this. Now the advantage you do have, oh, incidentally, these are actually different variants. We don't have two P90s to do the Desperado thing with. We have a P90 and we have a P90 DC. So we have the DAO on this feature weapon here, but DC is decocker. So with this one, you cock the pistol and it does stay cocked, and it does have a hammer that you could thumb back if you needed to, and the trigger is pulled back for a nice light-ish single action shot, and then it cocks itself, of course, and you get that also repeatable after the first shot. Nice light single action trigger. But DC decocker mode, it drops the hammer down, springs back up, and you can carry it with around in the chamber, but with a safer trigger pull, a longer, heavier, and it is heavier than the double action only trigger pull, by the way. Let's try that again. Yeah, a little bit. I think I might prefer it though, weirdly. Anyway, so another minor variant. We have with all of these 45 ACP versions, we have the 10 round magazine there. Single stack, and that gives rise to very frequent reloading in Desperado, which for a borderline fantasy movie does quite a good job of tracking round counts and everything. Hollywood Guns, again, does a good deep dive into that. The other movie that this starred in that's quite prominent, if you go to the Internet Movie Firearms database, the P-series pistols are in an absolute laundry list of different productions. But the major one for me, again, is True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Press the button for the top floor, please. Thank you.
His whole spy agency uses them for some reason. Little bit perplexing, not really. Well, let me explain now why that's weird. So, random Mexican gunfighter guitar player dude, fine. He's going to buy whatever he wants, whatever he likes. And certainly, in a cinematic sense, these look very cool. Big, blocky, especially the stainless finish here. The basic P85 and its parallels with these other bells and whistles, or not, is a blued finish, but a lot of people prefer the sort of gunmetal grey frame. This is a steel frame, by the way, and the stainless steel slide. So looks very shiny and cool. It's almost kind of big and chunky like a Desert Eagle, and I think they also very much like the big flash and the big prominent muzzle of a 45 ACP handgun as well. So that kind of explains both in the movie world and in El Mariachi world why he would carry one. Why Tasker's spy agency would have them, I don't know. These are not intended to be. I mean, they're not slim and lightweight like a concealed carry pistol for an actual operative or spy, and they are kind of a bit. Sorry, Ruger, but they're a lower price point pistol, so it's a little strange that equivalent to the CIA or whatever they were meant to be would be toting these around. But they were quite prominent. There was a famous poster with Arnold holding one of these that sticks in the mind as well. So much for the popular culture stuff. Certainly my way into this type, first time I ever saw it was probably in True Lies, actually, before I saw Desperado. Why do I say they're a bit on the cheaper end? Well, so Ruger were playing to their strengths when they designed this thing. It's designed from the ground up to use a lot of investment castings, which is a form of the lost wax process where you make a shape out of wax, you create something around that, and then you melt the wax out, and you create all your castings from that, resulting void. So that's what results in these big, chunky, I mean, everything on these pistols, all of them, whichever variant, is big and chunky. The frame, the slide, I mean, you can see how very wide that is. And I think I was particularly taken by this model because it's extra chunky up front with this dust cover. And if you haven't guessed it by now, I think it's going to be in the title, this is a laser. It's a built-in laser. Very unfortunately, nearly all of them don't work anymore, and ours is no exception. But when it did work, there was a cross-bolt style switch here. So a bit like a safety, you push it across to engage it. At that point, a beam of laser light, visible laser light obviously, is shooting out the end of your frame, and you basically, wherever the dot goes, you look over the sight, so you could even shoot from down here, reaction style, point shooting style, and you shoot wherever the dot is. And I've done a little bit of shooting with red dot sights, and this would be no exception. I find they wobble all over the shop. You do need a very good, you probably don't want a conventional grip to shoot them effectively, at which point you probably want a modern red dot. Now these are pre-red dot. I wouldn't want to see one cut. For me, these are now historic firearms. I wouldn't want to see one cut for a red dot sight, but that would be far superior, I think, to any form of laser. Now the lasers on these were made by a company called Tacstar. You will find the occasional mention of them. I don't think they're still going. They're obviously around in the 1990s when these were made. And they must have worked with Ruger to integrate one of their smaller laser devices into this dust cover here. Otherwise, it shares a lot of features with the other P-series Rugers. The shape of the slide with these serrations is a bit different on the P94, whether or not it's double action only. So there are, to be clear, there are different variations of this laser Ruger. So they're all P94s, but only some of those are laser, and then you have different configurations, different grips. It could be DAO, it could be decocker, it could be normal trigger with a safety. So this one has the standard, the overwhelmingly standard P85 pattern magazine catch, which is on both sides. Now, in theory, that would have given our desperate friend the ability to hold one in each hand and always have a magazine catch where his thumb wants them to be for releasing magazines, for those laborious magazine changes. But the P90 doesn't have that. As a bit of an aside, back to the movie, more popular movie gun, you'll see a difference there. So most of these pistols have the both side rocker type catch. You push it in, it kind of, well, it's more of a, it is effectively a rocker switch, and it's on both sides. A little bit awkward, but you get the ability to operate it from either side. What you'll see Banderas using in the movie on the P90, I think only on the P90, is a conventional 1911-esque button that's only left or right. So his left-hand gun would have been set up with the magazine catch swapped round so it's sticking out this side, and he can operate it with his left thumb. Because by default, it comes with this. Now, if anything, I think that actually makes it, that does make it easier to operate. So maybe that's part of the logic behind choosing the P90, although I think it just comes with the 45 ACP. So that's a result of the 45 magazines being designed the way they are. So they have to have a push across magazine catch. So another reason for showing you this variant is just how relatively rare these are. Only 1,836 of all the variations, hammer, no hammer, different grips, etc., with a laser were ever made. And only 225 of this particular configuration. So the double action only stainless with the conventional grips. Only 225 out of hundreds of thousands of these things. These were very popular. That lower price point did not sacrifice by any means the robustness and reliability of this series of pistols. So they were really popular for a period of time. And although I'm not sure that the CIA were ever using anything like this, a lot of, or some, I should say, US police departments did buy them. So you will see them in sort of archive footage and film and TV just as a sort of background gun, probably. But it has also this status as very much a hero gun for the likes of Arnold and for Antonio Banderas as well. Now, this one, not so much. This one maybe would have worked in Total Recall. I think this looks really sci-fi. 90s, a 90s idea of what sci-fi would be. It's a bit cyberpunk. Let's put it that way. But sadly, it's yet to feature. So if any filmmakers are out there, make us a cool cyberpunk movie and sneak in a couple of these.